Morning, everyone, and welcome to IT Unity's webinar, Delve and Office Graph Overview. My name is Dan Holm, and I'm thrilled to welcome Cem Aykan, who is the Senior Product Manager at Microsoft for Office Graph and Delve. Thank you, Cem, for joining us today. Let me make sure Cem's mic is off here for him.
I was just saying good morning, everybody, and thanks, Dan, for the opportunity. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this session. I think this is going to be a great overview of Delve, and we'll spend quite a bit of time explaining the magic behind it, the Office Graph, and what we're really planning to do with it in the future. So I'm really looking forward to having a more of an open discussion. So, please feel free to post your questions, and I know Dan is going to toss them my way. We want to make sure we answer all questions that come to mind.
Excellent. And before we begin the presentation as a whole, a couple of quick logistical announcements. As you know from the lobby, we've got a chat module that is there for all of us to chat with each other on the sort of the sidebar. But it's very important that if you've got a question for Cem, please use the Q&A. Please use the Q&A pod down below the video here. That will allow the questions to be queued up so that he can respond to them effectively later in the webinar. He's going to be doing a lot of live demonstrations, so he won't be able to necessarily follow the questions as you're submitting them, but we will have plenty of time for Q&A at the end. If you happen to get disconnected, or if the video stream is not working well for you, the best strategy is simply to disconnect, close the console, and reconnect using the same URL that you came to the event for. And that in our experience will fix every problem there. And the other corner, we've got some resources for you. You can click through when you're ready, but they will also be available for you after the event, as will the slides and the recording. The slides are actually already on itunity.com. Cem is not necessarily going to go through all the slides. He wants this to be more interactive in real time, but there's a great slide deck there for you. And the recording will be posted within a couple of days. We've got, as you know, 5 great webinars this week. So we've got a huge amount of content and sharing to do with the community this week. As soon as we get through that, we'll post all of the recordings from these events so you can watch them on demand as well. If you have to leave early, do please go to itunity.com and check out the other great events we've got this week. After Cem gives us an introduction to Delve and Office Graph from Microsoft's perspective, Agnes Molnar is going to look at what she's doing in clients and how Delve and Office Graph affect them in the real world. We then on Thursday have Victor Villain talking about developing on Office Graph, and Christian Buckley looking at how Office Graph and Delve fit into the broader trends in enterprise social. And perhaps most exciting for us is our very first Ask the Experts live panel on Friday, which is going to include 9 world-famous experts on Delve and Office Graph, enterprise search and findability, all on webcam just like this, answering your questions live. So we've got a very exciting week for us, and I can't think of a better way to kick it off than to hand it over to Cem. So again, if you've got any questions, I will... and Frank, someone already went to check the slides. There must be a publishing timing delay, so just give those about another 10-15 minutes. Those will appear. And let me hand it over to Cem here. So we'll switch layouts and we'll begin.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Dan. Let me share my screen. There we go. So let me know if you guys could see my slide that I'm sharing right now.
Not quite yet, but it looks like it's going to be coming in soon. And by the way, once Cem does get going, there is if you hover over what would be the title bar in the sharing area, a full screen button will appear, and you can go to full screen. But of course, if you want to then submit a question, you'll have to minimize that. But no, Cem, we're not. It's saying it's looking like it's sharing, but we're not seeing anything yet. So I wonder if it's still sharing the correct monitor, or if there's something on top.
Let's see.
Cem, in the upper right corner, there's a little drop-down menu that you can stop sharing, and then you can just reshare.
Yeah, I'm just trying to go to the main view. It's not going to the main view of the Adobe Connect Central. It's kind of minimized it. So trying to figure that out. Let's see. Okay, so let's
Joys
see
of
what's
live
happening.
TV, right? Jim, are
Seem
you able to
to
get back into the console?
I can't seem to get back to the console, unfortunately. Um, let me see. I could try to connect again right away.
No, you're in. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it minimized the console to the bottom right,
Yeah. Okay. Let me do this.
and
I'm
then
going to stop sharing. Maybe that will give you access to the console again.
yes,
Okay.
that did actually give me access. Perfect. But then I only see a small thing there. I don't see anything. Might have to log in again.
I don't think so.
Let me do that quickly.
Okay. We'll give Jim
All
a
right.
sec
All right.
to get going. This we of course we tested this before and it always works perfectly. So just give us 1 second, and while we do that, I'll make sure that those slides are published here for us. If anyone has a good joke, you can tell it in the. Yeah, you can definitely tell. You can definitely tell it's live. There's no doubt about that. Let me get the slides to be published. Jim's back. Let me bump him back up to be a presenter again. All right, Jim, welcome back. And
Oh, guys, I just got myself a cup of coffee and I'm back. Let's see. Let's see if this works again.
there we go. We got it.
All right,
And
great.
don't forget to click start sharing on your webcam.
Okay, so it is sharing now, right?
Not yet.
Oh, okay. So I'm going to go with this because I think the webcam is slowing down my
That
connection.
could be. That could be. So we'll let you go.
We'll
Thanks.
just go with this. And to be frank, I mean, I don't have such a good face to look at anyway, so that's perfectly fine. I think.
All right, we'll let you.
All right. So thanks again, Dan, for the opportunity for setting this series up. We're really early in the journey of Delve, and I'm really looking forward to both, giving you guys an update on where we are, as well as a quick overview of what Delve really is, what are some of the scenarios we're trying to accomplish with Delve, as well as, really dive deep into a bit of the mechanics behind Office Graph and why we're so excited and the potential we see in the graph as we continue to evolve it, as we continue to mature it. So some of this information initially might feel repetitive for some of you that might have already done some research on Delve, who might be using Delve within Office 365 in first release. Or after that, I'll quickly change gears and I'd like to talk about what we're planning to do with it as we go along. But as I mentioned earlier, let's make sure that we try to answer the questions that come to mind. So I'll rely on Dan to pass me those questions. And I like to make sure that this is a time well spent for all of you. And I always look forward to hearing feedback from our users, our influencers, our evangelists out there like you. So really looking forward to a more of an open discussion as we go along. So before I get started with Delve, I'm going to do a bit of demos today as well. I think it's important for us to talk about Office Graph as a concept. Delve is this search and discovery experience that lives within Office 365. And we talk about search and discovery as separate things. And there's a reason for that. Search is when you need to find something, you're trying to complete a task, but you don't know where that document is or that content is, or you're trying to find an expert to help you prepare for something or learn more about a given topic. That's what search really is. And there's many different flavors of search out there within the firewall, within enterprise. Some work well, some don't work that well, just because of the fact that information is fragmented across many different applications. So that's on the search side. But discovery is a whole different beast. Today, there isn't many discovery experiences for information workers within the enterprise. Discovery today relies on manual labor. You have to ask around, you have to look around, you have to look at different places early in the morning when you're sipping your coffee, or you have to wait for people to share information with you. And discovery, unfortunately, doesn't really work well when information is scattered even in more places. So we really wanted to tackle these two scenarios with Delve to bring discovery into an experience that also helps you search for information that is very relevant and very personal to you. But underneath Delve is this new technology that we have been investing with for almost, I would say, a year and a half with the FAST team in Norway, based in Norway. This was an enterprise search company that we acquired back in 2008. They were the leading search vendor at the time in the market. And over years, they've done a great job in integrating fast search within SharePoint, both with SharePoint 2010 as well as natively within SharePoint 2013. But after the SharePoint 2013 launch, they really shifted gears and they really wanted to go after more than just a search box. They wanted to really focus on experiences where they could help people connect with information at the right time within the context of what you're trying to do. And at the heart of Office Graph is all of the learnings that this team had, as well as some of the paradigms we start to see with enterprise social, how relationships are formed amongst people based on behavior, and how those relationships can be used to help people connect with the right information. So I'd like to give a quick little overview of Office Graph, the foundational layer. So Office Graph is not an end-user experience. It's this data layer that sits behind these applications that we use every day. So when you look at Office 365 or any productivity suite out there, whether you're using on-prem or you're in the cloud or you're in hybrid mode, which is something that's becoming more and more popular, you'll notice that there is a set of applications. You got your email, of course. Email is your home page. When you come to the office, you might be using, a SharePoint for team sites or team collaboration, or just using OneDrive to store your files. Or you might be using a third-party sync file sharing environment. You might be using some enterprise social that is really starting to pick up. The problem with this view is we start to use multiple applications throughout the day. And these applications were really designed to work great standalone, meaning that if all you did all day long was just use email, you were good to go. You would live happily ever after. But chances are you're collaborating with other people, you're sharing files, you're having discussions in groups around those projects, around those topics, and essentially you're using all of those different applications throughout the day. The pain points that we started to observe over time with this model is it's great that we have these applications and they really help solve certain needs. But because they were designed to work standalone, they were never efficient enough in passing information from one application to another application. And the most common thing you could relate to is, when you try to find something, when you're searching for a document, let's say, where do you start? Do you search in your email, in your inbox? Maybe it was an email attachment. Maybe it's a document in a team site in SharePoint, or it's something in your intranet portal. Or maybe it's in your OneDrive, or perhaps it's something that you had shared in Yammer and you guys were having a discussion around that last night. There is multiple search boxes that we have to deal with throughout the day. And I think this is happening because these applications are really fragmenting those silos of information within those applications themselves. And this is the first pain point that we started to see over time. And this becomes even more evident when you go to the cloud, where these applications are really designed to work by themselves. So that's the first problem. But the second challenge, and this is something that's not very obvious, but this is something that we all deal with on a day-to-day basis. And that is that these applications are becoming more collaborative in nature. And what that means is, whether it's being able to provision groups in Exchange now, that's something we just shipped within Office 365. Or the fact that you might be collaborating in real-time editing within documents, sharing with your colleagues, or working within a team site, or sharing more openly within Yammer. These applications are becoming more efficient and more collaborative. And as that efficiency goes up, the rate of information produced surpasses the rate of information that we can understand as humans. And that's what we call information overload. And we believe that machine learning can help people connect with the right information and really help them discover the things that matter the most to them. And that's what Office Graph is. It's this machine layer fabric that sits between those applications and starts to connect all of them together in this single data model, which we call Office Graph. So you might have heard a lot of graphs out there. Facebook has their social graph. If you look at various consumer-facing products out there, you're starting to see this graph concept really come to shape. We were really not in the business of creating a graph. It just turned out to be that the most efficient way of building relationships with people and objects and documents and topics and one another was to go with a graph data model. And the way we build the graph is we actually look at all of the content you work with, whether it's in your email as attachments or whether it's in the different team sites in SharePoint, in your portals, in Yammer, you name it, things are scattered all around. And we look at the people you interact with as well. Whether you're interacting with emails, maybe you're setting up meetings, maybe you're having discussions on Link and Yammer, and we use all of that content and those user interactions, and then use machine learning to map the relationships between people, content, and one another. And that's what the graph is. It uses those insights to really get a view about you, what is really relevant for you, what is really important for you. Who do you work with? What are the most important topics? So over time, we're able to learn more about you within the graph itself. And the interesting thing about this is, of course, just your world. This is the things that you care about as a person. And this really helps us personalize experiences such as Delve, so that when I go to Delve, I see content that's relevant for me. And when Dan goes to Delve in the morning, he sees a lot of different things because he works with different people, he works on different topics, and he has different permissions to documents than I do as well. So what he sees will be different than what I see all the time because we're just two different people. And this really helps us take personalization to that next level. But what becomes interesting is once we apply this pattern across the whole company, it's not just about you anymore. It's about tapping into the collaborative wisdom of the whole company. So there might be somebody else in another department that might be working on something very similar that you would have never known until we started to connect the dots between you and that person. And we were able to do that by the sheer fact of the behavior that you guys had. Maybe you liked something, maybe you edited documents that was about a certain topic, and that person might have worked on a similar thing as well. And now we are able to connect those dots to really start to build those relationships and then start to power these new experiences on top of Office Graph. So Office Graph, as I mentioned, it's important to call out, is really that intelligent engine that is going to start to power a new generation of experiences within Office 365. And one of those experiences is, of course, Delve. And I'm going to do a quick little demo of that so we could see that in action. So now it's important to point out that I called out that this was the first experience that is powered by Office Graph. And you're going to see us really start to bring in additional scenarios, whether they're bringing more intelligence, bringing more richness into existing experiences, such as recently we launched a new feature within Exchange Online called Clutter, which uses the insights within the graph to help you organize your inbox, to remove unnecessary email intelligently into a separate folder. Or you might have heard that we're actually we just shipped recently a new video portal within Office 365, which is similar to a YouTube for Enterprise type of scenario. And within that video portal, we can now start to make recommendations for viewers to watch other videos based on their behavior. So you're going to start to see these rich, proactive, intelligent type of scenarios really come to life in various different places. But Delve was the first experiences that we really started to take the power of Office Graph into action. So let me switch over to Delve, and we could quickly walk through it. Here is now. Before I do so, please let me know if you could still see my screen. I just want to make sure we're well connected. Dan, can you hear me?
Yeah, sorry, I was on mute. Yeah, your screen looks great. Thanks for checking.
Okay, perfect. Just double checking in case I lost you guys. So here is Delve, and Delve is that search and discovery experience that I mentioned as earlier. And Delve really brings me the most relevant and the most interesting content that matters to me in my view in the form of these cards. Now, the reason why we picked this notion of cards is twofold. First of all, these cards are very visual. They really provide us the ability to give a bite-sized information of what that document is about. The cards are structured in 3 different sections. On the top section, we have some recent activity around this document. So in this case, Sarah Davis has updated this document recently, so I know why I'm seeing this, why this is something that's relevant for me. And maybe Sarah is a person that I work closely with. Maybe Sarah is my colleague. And maybe this is a document that I'm also interested in because this is a topic that I work closely with Sarah. In the middle of the card, you'll see that we extract the title as well as a preview of the document so that you could visually quickly inspect what that document is about. And on the bottom, you start to see some additional insights and actions, such as the number of views of this document, as well as if I want to email this document to my colleagues, if I want to share this, if I have permissions to do so. And in the future, we'll also be adding a post to Yammer, where I could post directly to Yammer. So these cards are not just visual, but they're becoming more and more actionable. Another great thing about these cards, of course, is we spent a lot of time on usability and testing. And as it turns out, these cards are also great for a mobile experience too. So if I bring this little, minimized view of my browser, imagine that this is a mobile phone. These cards now have automatically stacked themselves based on the resolution of the phone. And I can start to swipe up and down. But what if I want to see the contents of this document? Now, in a phone environment, of course, you're limited on what you can do. And in the future, we'll be really optimizing these experiences so that I could swipe through the content to directly see what's in the document. So I don't have to click and open that document, wait for it to download on my phone, and then open it up in a client application. I could quickly inspect in a very easy way by just swiping through the experience itself. And we're going to really focus on these mobile experiences as we go forward as well. This is just the early prototype that I'm showing you. But the goal is to really make sure that it's efficient to navigate information that's relevant for you. Now, let me quickly go back to Delve here. So you'll notice that this is my home view. This is stuff that matters for me. So for instance, I might have a meeting with, let's say, with Garth Ford soon about this topic, and this might be a document that him and I are working closely with. Or if I scroll down, perhaps I see that, one of my colleagues have just modified a document, and this is something that I would have never known until Arpan took the extra time to share it with me directly so that, I would be up to date. But based on my behavior, based on the activities that I have done and the things that I have in common with Arpan, as you can see now, this is proactively surfaced for me. Now, the first question that comes to mind when people see this in action is, well, what about permissions? Am I seeing documents that I'm not supposed to see? And it's important to call out that Office Graph and Delve do not change permissions whatsoever. So we inherit the existing permissions. So if this was an email attachment sent to me, it will only be visible to me. If this is something that's in a SharePoint team site or my OneDrive or another place that Office Graph has access to, we will inherit those permissions, and you will only see documents that I have access to see. So this makes things interesting because when Dan goes to his home view, he might see a whole different set of content than I do. Not just because he works with different teams on different topics, but because he has different set of permissions. And we really made sure that it's easy to see who has access to what. So if you're not certain about a certain permission, maybe you were not sure if you shared it with too many people, you can actually click this little thing here, who can see this control, and it will open up a new tab, and it will show you who has access to this document. So in this case, this has been shared with lots of people. If I want, I could invite additional people. I could set the permissions on who can view this or who has access to that. So we really wanted to make sure that it's as transparent as possible and something that you could really optimize for. So my home view is a great place to start where I want to discover things that are relevant for me, or if I want to get up to speed on topics that I know is going to be important throughout my day. But on the left side, we also introduced a set of views. As you can see, we have a different set of views here. This was my home view. My work is a really interesting one. This is a really natural way for me to navigate to my work. Now, as you can imagine, when you're working in many different projects across many different teams, things really get scattered around. For instance, this isn't Julia's OneDrive, but if I scroll down, let's see, this is on a Contoso team site. If I scroll down more, this is in the video portal. There's a lot of stuff that is scattered all around, and it's really hard for me to remember where everything is. Was it in my OneDrive? Was it in my team site? Was it in my email? It becomes this frantic search of being able to discover and find my latest work that I was working on. But we really made sure that by using the insights within Office Graph, we could provide a natural way for you to navigate to that content. And we're able to do that because Office Graph is really it really becomes that digital memory. It knows the documents I work with, it knows where they are, so I don't have to always try to remember where things are. And if I need something, I could just go to my work. And if I want to, I could even filter down, so I could start to say, hey, if I start typing in Contoso, it will in real time start to filter my search based on what I'm exactly looking for. So this becomes a very natural way of navigating. Share with me one is another good one. There's many different ways of sharing information today. Of course, you could share through OneDrive, you could share through team sites, but the most common way is sharing through email attachments, and that's something we're going to tackle in the near time soon as well. But what we wanted to accomplish with this view was we said no matter how something is shared with you, let's make it very easy for you to navigate to it. And yet again, Office Graph really comes into play here because it knows how something was shared with me, whether it's an email attachment, whether it's a team site, whether it's in SharePoint or OneDrive or Yammer. It now can help me pivot around the graph and help me focus on what I really need to find, what really matters to me. So we're really excited about these natural views that we provide here. But one thing that really started to pop out within Delve, and it's important to point out that Delve is still in first release within Office 365, and first release is an opt-in program, meaning that any Office 365 customer can opt in to receive significant new updates first and try it out. So if you're an Office 365 admin and you want to start trying out Delve, all you have to do is turn on a switch called first release, and in a matter of days, you'll get Delve available within the Suite nav. And the way Delve will be available is it will be in the Start menu. So your email, you got your calendar, you got your Yammer OneDrive, SharePoint sites, and Delve will be a new addition right within there so that you could access to it. Your users can access to it right away. So let me go back to one interesting find that we have observed within first release. So we started first release in September, and it's been almost a good 3 months or so that we were able to observe user behavior. And one thing that really stood out was that, yes, there is a lot of activity. There's a lot of usage happening within the whole view. But one thing that's happening the most is users are actually searching for people and using people as a way of navigating for information. And what that means is, let's say I'm looking for something and I know that Michael Atala had worked on this. Now, I could try to search for it. I could go ask Atala directly, or maybe I go to my inbox. Maybe it was an email that he sent me, or I tried to look around different places. But this people view allows me to click on Michael's profile and then see all of the content that I have in common with Atala that he has shared with me, that I have permissions to see. This is great because, as it turns out, it's really hard to remember a title of a document, a keyword within the document, or the location of a document, but you always remember the person behind it. Either that person worked on it, or that person is an expert on that topic, or that person was somebody who had shared that with you. And using people as a way to navigating for information is a very, very natural thing to do. And if you look at the Office Graph again, if I bring back the Office Graph again, you'll see that the graph consists of multiple objects, and people is one of the key objects within the graph. And we really are looking to optimize Delve going forward around people-centric discovery and search and refine type of scenarios, because that's what we do in our life. That's a very common thing we do. If you need to find something, chances are the best option is to walk to that person's desk and ask him directly. What if you could bring some of those insights and some of that knowledge within the graph and help you do that in a much more efficient way, so you don't always have to go and ask that person's desk. and in some cases, in large organizations, that's not even possible to do. So I talked about the fact that Office Graph is that first experience that powers Delve. And Delve is the first experience that is powered by the graph. And I'd like to talk a little bit about the two key ingredients that make up the graph. So when we look at the graph, you'll see that we have two key ingredients. The first is content, which could be people, as I mentioned, which is the number one pivot for all of the experiences that we'll be building. It could be documents, it could be sites. We just recently added the video portal. So every time somebody uploads a video within the Office 365 video portal, that will also be discoverable within Delve, and that will mean you'll have more eyes on that video that you just published within your intranet portal. Also social gestures, social documents, social links that are posted, as well as in the future we'll start to bring in more groups, more collections, meetings, and those sort of things. And external content will come into play as well. But that's the content side. This is not something unique to the graph. Any search engine can index this stuff and help you search for it. But what's unique about Delve is we're able to bring you content without you having to search for it based on what we know about you, based on the insights that are captured within the graph. And we're able to do that by the second ingredient. And I think the signals are really the secret sauce within the graph. These signals can be, anytime I open a document or I view something, which is something that's a private signal, anytime I share, I follow, social gestures such as liking something, or every time I send an email to my colleague, when I present something, the meetings that I might be in. Another interesting one is, we're also looking at ignore. So if I send you a lot of emails, I share a lot of documents with you, but you don't actually bother to look at them, that tells a lot about our relationship, and the relevance within the Office graph can be optimized based on the types of actions you do, the types of signals that you trigger. So if you're ignoring something, that means that you don't really care about much of my content, and when you visit Delve, you might see less and less of my content in Delve, and you might see more and more of your content from people that you interact with the most. Now, it's important to call out that the content and the signals are both built with, are integrated within Office Graph with the permissions and privacy in mind. So let me go back to this view here of the Office Graph. What you'll notice is, yes, you'll have some content. We'll inherit those permissions. So if you have access to a document, you'll have that access within Delve as well. If you don't have access to a document, you will never see that in Delve. But then also those signals that I mentioned, we were very thoughtful and careful about making sure that there are two types of signals. There is a signal called public signal, and there's a private signal. So for instance, if I email Dan something, that's a private communication between me and Dan, and that will be considered as a private signal. Now, it's important to point out that we don't even surface emails in Delve. We will only surface attachments and content within those emails. But nonetheless, because it's between me and Dan, the only people that can see that attachment or that link within that email would be Dan and I. Nobody else will be able to see that because we have classified that as a private signal. But if I post something in an open Yammer group, or if I post something in a, if I work on a document in an open team site, that's an open environment, and that's a public signal that others can also leverage to discover new information, to be able to find stuff that might be relevant for them. So we're very thoughtful about those types of signals that are captured within the graph. And this is actually represented within the UI as well. So if I go back to Delve, there will be certain documents that I'll be able to see here that you won't be able to see. And one of the things we're planning to do in the short term is to add visual cues. So if this is something that's only shared with me, you'll see a little lock sign on the bottom of the card so that I will know that this is something that's private for me. So I don't have to check who can see this control. If I'm curious, I could always click this and see who has access to that document. Yet again, this is a new paradigm. This is about being able to discover and find information that already exists within the enterprise. And what we have seen over time in first release is customers who are starting to roll out enterprise social, customers who are more comfortable with the openness of information are really starting to get great value out of Delve. When our customers turn on Delve for the first time, one other great benefit that we have seen is they will start to get instant value from day one. And the reason why they'll get instant value from day one is because they were already using their email, they were already working in SharePoint and team sites and OneDrive, or they were already sharing and collaborating. And those content and those signals can quickly be processed with machine learning within Office Graph. And the moment you turn on Delve, you'll be able to discover things that are very relevant to you. And there'll be a moment of, wow, I did not know this person was working on this. That's great because I don't have to do all of this work. Or it could be scenarios such as when a new employee joins a team, or you start working on a new team. It really helps with that onboarding scenario where you could learn more about a team. You could learn who are the experts on which topics. You could navigate your around and discover information, and you could really get up to speed in a very efficient way. Now, common questions that I get a lot from customers was around privacy, which hopefully this addresses your questions, and I look forward to seeing if there are any other questions. But another question that I get quite often is, well, customers tell me, hey, Cem, this is great, but I'm not just using Office 365. Maybe I'm planning to go to Office 365. Maybe I'll have a bit of a hybrid. I'll have some investments on Prem. Maybe I'll start to move some workloads to Office 365. Or I might be using other line of business applications or third-party services. And the most common question I get is, well, how can I enrich the graph with third-party content and third-party signals? And for that, we believe that a graph is more valuable if it has more connections. Of course, we would have loved that you use Office 365 as your number one destination. But chances are you're using a lot of different line of business systems, and you might have a lot of assets on-prem as well. So for that, we'll be investing in extensibility scenarios in 2015, and that will be structured in 3 sets of APIs. The first is something called the graph query language, which means that you could build your own applications against Office Graph. So you could build something like Delve, by just querying the graph yourself, or bring some of the richness of the graph into your existing applications. This is very powerful if you think about it. If you're a developer, this is very, very powerful because as a developer in the past, you had to write apps against certain silos. Maybe you were writing an app against SharePoint. Maybe you were writing an app against Exchange. Maybe you were writing an app against Yammer. But there was no way, there was no single data model that captured all of that content and those signals in a single data model. So now as an app builder, as a person who's extending the functionality that we provide, you'll be able to tap into all of those applications and all of that behavior around those applications. So that's very powerful. Now it's important to point out that we have already released a preview version of the graph query language. And I know throughout this week, Dan has a lot of sessions that will probably dive into that. So I won't talk much about that. But there's quite a bit of activity around this. You could definitely learn more this week, as well as I'm sure there'll be a lot of content shared as well. The second set of API is, it's great that I could create a graph, but how can I push my own content into the graph? Whether I want to discover that in Delve, maybe it's an expense report system. Maybe it's a CRM system, or maybe it's my on-prem intranet portal, my on-prem content, or my file shares. There could be a lot of different content sources that are out there, and I think that the content push API that we will eventually provide in 2015 will really help us, help you build those types of connections to third-party content sources to enrich the graph. But of course, content is just one piece of the puzzle. Without signals, it really doesn't mean much. It will just act like a search engine. So we will also expose a set of APIs that will allow you to push signals around that content. So content can be, let's say, a CRM records, and a signal can be maybe it was a customer that was assigned to you. Maybe you call that customer, or maybe you done an update on that customer account. All of those things are different signals with different weights. And as a developer, you'll have the control of being able to push that content and signals in the graph, and then use the graph query language to build your own applications against that. We're already starting to see some, very, very early prototypes of applications that are built, both internally and externally. I'd like to give one example internally, something that we're working on. let's say, you have a meeting with a bunch of people in 2 hours about a topic that you're not very familiar with, and you haven't really worked with that people that often, that much. What if we could provide you a meeting prep cards right within Delve so that you could be better prepared for that meeting? And we would be able to do that because Office Graph, as I mentioned earlier, connects to your Exchange. It knows that you have a meeting coming in 2 hours. It knows the latest documents, the latest discussions around that topic, and we could proactively make sure that you're prepared for that meeting. And at the heart of Delve, that's what it's all about. You're not in the business of searching and discovering. You're not searching for the sake of searching, or you're not discovering something just for the sake of, oh, good to know. Chances are it's all about you trying to complete a task. And I think that some of these insights we have in the graph across those applications, whether it's Exchange, SharePoint, and Yammer, or third-party services, will allow us to bring more scenarios that could help people complete tasks, help people be more prepared for those tasks. And that's where these proactive notifications, these proactive cards will come into play. So we are just starting this journey within Delve. It starts as a search and discovery experience. Will we be adding more content sources into the Office Graph, such as email attachments? The video portal is already there. Yammer content, third-party content, hybrid content from on-premises SharePoint deployments. There's a lot of stuff that's coming in our pipeline. But at the end of the day, it's what you can do with that content that really matters. And I think that our developers, our partner community will really take that to the next level and really help people build new applications and new scenarios that help you complete tasks in a much more efficient way. I think this is where this is going. There's a lot of assistants out there. You got your personal assistant, you got your fitness assistant, you got this and that. I think that you're going to start to see more and more of these office assistant type of scenarios come into play. And that meeting prep card that I mentioned is one simple baby step in that direction. As these machine learning algorithms get smarter and more intelligent, there's going to be a lot of different unique things that we'll be able to do in the next 3 to 5 years. So that was a quick little 5,000 foot level overview of Delve and Office Graph. I hope it gives you an understanding of why we're so excited about Office Graph as that technology and Delve as that first experience. And saying that, I think we have 15 minutes left. I'd like to answer some questions if I can. And let me know if you'd like me to dive deep into any other area that I wasn't able to do for the sake of time here.
Wonderful. Okay, thank you so much for that that awesome overview, Cem. Let me switch us into Q&A mode. And thank you all who've already submitted questions. And if you've got additional questions, you can post them in the Q&A mode. So I'm back. Hopefully my webcam will start showing. And Cem, if you can start sharing your webcam at some point here, that'd be great.
Yes.
We'll get you in the carousel.
I think, let's see. Okay, I'm sharing my webcam right now. So back with my giant head. I noticed, in this session when I was looking at the webcam, I was telling them before that I did not know I had such a big head, but yeah.
All right, so we've got a lot of great questions. Some of them are about items you didn't cover. Some are some clarification about things you did. Folks, as we do answer these questions, you can definitely continue to submit them, and I'll do my best to curate those questions as we go here. So I'll try to categorize some of the questions that we got. The first set of questions was around timeline for rollout. And actually, I'll start with a general question here. Cem, can you give us a broad feeling for when Microsoft expects to, and maybe give people a little bit more insight into what first release is versus global and when global will be complete?
Yeah, absolutely. I should have probably covered this in more detail in the beginning. But the way we roll features out within Office 365 is, we want to give a bit of a heads up to our early adopters to test it out, to give it a try, to provide us feedback. And that's a rollout strategy that's based around this thing called first release. So as I mentioned, first release is an opt-in program. So as an Office 365 customer, you could say, hey, you could raise your hand and say, I'm going to be an early adopter. Let me try this stuff first. I'd like to give you guys feedback, and I want to be I want to make sure that I get early access so I can test it out and make sure that I'm comfortable with this. If I like it, I keep it on. If I don't like it, I can turn it off. So first release is something we started early in this summer, and Dell was the first inclusion within first release. So customers who turned on first release got Dell right away. Over the next couple of months, we started to add more new capabilities, such as the Office 365 Groups feature, as well as the new video portal. So all of these new scenarios, new experiences are now available in first release. And then based on how mature they are, how much there's more room to do polish and fix things and improve things, it will start to go out to worldwide based on where we are on that maturity. So certain things might spend maybe a month in first release, and they might go out of first release right away to worldwide to everybody. But certain scenarios such as Dell, which is really a unique thing, this is the first time we're doing something like this, and this is the first time we're having something like this within the firewall, within the enterprise. So there's a lot of learning on our side. We believe that as we look at data, as we look at usage, we can optimize things. As we improve that, we believe that we should be able to get out to worldwide in early 2015. So that means that starting in early 2015, we'll start to roll this out to worldwide. And then probably, in a couple of months at that point, we'll probably finish the full rollout to all our customers. But like I mentioned, if you want to give this a try now and give us feedback, just turn that switch on and give it a try and let us know what you think. So hopefully that answers that question.
Awesome, wonderful. And along the same lines, BJ is asking, when will Delve and Office Graph be available for users with Office 365 developer license through MSDN? Is that also just a matter of turning on first release?
Yeah, I think you can just turn on first release. You'll get it. I want to caution our developers though who want to play around with this. I've seen this a lot. You could create a trial tenant, turn it on, and all that stuff. But Delve works great if there's actual content and user activity. So if it's just a trial tenant, when you go to Delve, you're not going to see anything interesting because there isn't much content, there isn't much usage activity. So keep that in mind. The best way to see that it's real power is to try it in your own production tenant. But to play around with the APIs, to start building some prototypes, of course, go down that route. But keep in mind, there might be a bit of a sparse data issue because it's just a trial tenant and there isn't much activity there.
And on that note, Janet's asking, we've turned on Delve already, but it doesn't seem to be pulling much content in for her personally. Any idea why? Is that possibly just because it's right now focused on Office documents that are in OneDrive or Office 365?
That's right. Right now, Delve surfaces content from SharePoint team sites as well as OneDrive. So if you're not actively using those things, then you won't see content much in Delve right away. But when we go out to worldwide, we'll also be adding content from Exchange. So if people send you email attachments, if they post, send you links. If you're using Yammer, the content within Yammer. So we're going to bring in more and more content sources across the full stack. We just decided to start with SharePoint Online and OneDrive as a starting point because it was very easy to experiment with. But of course, that's coming down the road.
Awesome. And you mentioned Office documents, PDFs. I assume are in the pipeline or are available now, or are those?
Yes, I believe we're working on that. I believe it will be available soon. It will be Office documents. The video portal, videos will be there as well. Yep. So I can see a video, I can play it from the card. I can click on it, it will take me to the video portal. If you email me, Dan, a website you found the other day, when I come into Office, I might see it on my Delve card as well. So we're going to support a lot of different content types. And that's us. But then our partner and developer communities, as they enrich the graph with third-party services and third-party content, they'll be able to create their own cards. Let's say it's an expense report system, and your manager sees a card with the expense report. Maybe on the bottom of the card, there'll be a custom action, and he or she can approve that. So it's gonna get pretty interesting once we expose those APIs and open the doors.
Fantastic. And you said Yammer obviously is in the pipeline, but just to clarify, the content, the attachments of email messages are game for Office Graph, but the actual email message itself is not, correct?
No, this is a content-centric search and discovery.
Yep.
You already have your great email client. We're not interested in that. I think the insights within the email will help. Maybe it's an email attachment that you received, and maybe we could pull a bit of a tidbit to say, hey, this is you're seeing this because it's about this topic. But it's not an email reading experience. That's not the plan here.
Yes, but then the the emails themselves, not the contents, but the fact that you and I email actually strengthen the relationship between you and I on the graph, right?
Exactly. It will strengthen our relationship. And if I email you and you ignore my emails, then it will also, weaken our relationship as well. So.
Oh, I'll try not to do that, Jen. And a number of questions around sort of the timing of signals and their exposure of content in Office Graph. If something is changed, if a signal is fed into the graph, if search indexes a document, how quickly does that actually end up surfacing in a user's experience like in Delve?
That's an area that right now I think we could do a better job. When I say better job, maybe I'm being a bit greedy. I would like it to be sub-seconds. Right now, it's more like in the minutes range, a couple minutes, maybe 5 to 10 minutes, depending on how loaded that tenant is. But we're doing some underlying changes in the platform to really bring it down to real-time metrics right now. So that's an investment that we're doing, and we need that as we expose the APIs for third-party systems too. So it's a work in progress, but it will be a matter of minutes before you see it in Delve today.
Excellent. And then the next sort of category of questions roll into the issues of support on-prem. Can you just clarify one more time what is available on-prem, what will be available on-prem, I should say, what will be available hybrid from a business value perspective?
Yeah. So, unfortunately, Office Graph needs to run in the cloud just because of the sheer compute power needed. We could have taken a snapshot of Office Graph and then make it available on-prem, but chances are you would have needed 150 servers to get it running, just because of the machine learning compute needed, the amount of testing that's done on the relevancies. We're doing constant A/B testing. We're constantly improving the relevance. So we really need the power of the cloud. But saying that, we have a lot of customers that are, they have a lot of investments on-prem, whether it's SharePoint 2010, 2013, God forbid 2007. There's a few out there. And we know that they're not going to be able to fully move to the cloud right away. So for that, hybrid is going to be key for us. So we're planning to make available some hybrid connector investments in the future, where if you're a customer that moves certain things to the cloud, but you still have your on-prem in a coexistence mode, it's interesting to see my hands here, then you could do a hybrid connection between your on-prem and Office 365 so that you could still take advantage of Delve with the content that lives on-prem. Of course, the IT admins will have control over that. They might say, I don't want to crawl everything in Office Graph because they're sensitive. We want to keep them on-prem for certain regulations or compliance reasons. You could do that too. It will be up to you on what you want to be set up as hybrids. And we're definitely working forward that in 2015.
Excellent. And you said something there that I wonder, just to clarify, you mentioned the potential, and I don't know whether this was just an example or whether it's real, the potential of even supporting previous versions of SharePoint, 2013, 2010, 2007, in a hybrid environment. Is that possible?
We have to. I think we have to do that. I would like that to be the case, and we haven't really locked down exactly what that's going to be like. But the goal would be to be backward compatible because that's where the existing investment is. We want to make sure that we help you with your existing investments as you start to move to the cloud, and use hybrid as a way for you to really take advantage of some of the scenarios that are unique to the cloud, but not pressure you to upgrade on-prem if you don't need to. Of course, if you upgrade, it's good for you as well, but we want to help you either way. So that's what we're pushing forward with engineering, and I think you'll see more official announcements on that as this thing matures as we go through, but that's definitely on our roadmap.
Well, that's excellent. That's actually a question I hadn't had time to ask you. And what about what happens from an admin perspective when an employee leaves the company? What's possible, or what's in the pipeline for those scenarios of having to basically pull someone out of the graph? Or similarly, if you hire a new employee that basically needs similar visibility into information as an existing employee, you're basically expanding and scaling a role.
Yeah. So the identity of a user in Delve is coming from Active Directory. So if that user is taken out of Active Directory, he will also be taken out of Delve. and therefore, his insights will not be visible to others. You won't be able to search for his name. You won't be able to click on his profile. But the content he had in OneDrive and SharePoint team sites, whatever those are, they'll still stay as is because that content is there unless you remove them physically. So the content will be there, just the insights around that person will not be visible anymore. And that person won't, of course, have access to Delve because it's part of Office 365. When a new user is added to the organization, because we pull signals from Exchange, SharePoint, Yammer, and whatever those sources are, of course that user has just started working, so there isn't much signals there, right? But we also pull in signals from Active Directory, that person's manager, his colleagues, and those sort of things. And that will be the catalyst for us to start to show some related content to that user when they come to Delve. So if I just started my work Monday, Tuesday morning when I come to the office, when I turn up Delve, I'll see the documents that my colleagues are working on in my team, my manager's working on that I have permissions to see. And that's a great way for me to get up to speed on that new team. As I start communicating with other people in the team, across teams, with email and Yammer and SharePoint and whatever, then my circle starts to grow and Delve starts to show me even more content. So it really grows and learns over time with the user. But we have a great starting point because Active Directory is in the DNA of the profile.
Excellent. And we're just going to run out of time here, but so two sort of last categories of questions. A quick one. Andy was noticing that there didn't seem to be integration with Office web apps for live preview of documents. Is that something that is on the charts?
We wanted to do that, but I think there was a bit of a performance implication because in Delve, we load up to 32 cards. And that would mean that we would have to load that little, iframe thingy 32 times. And it was really slowing, it was a high latency ask for the web page to render that. So we went with this preview snippets. And as you saw in the mobile demo I did where I was swiping with my finger across those slides, we'll be adding more functionality where you could iterate through the content itself if it has multiple slides or, whatever that is. But direct integration with Office Online, the web app view, was very difficult for latency reasons. I would have loved to, though. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Let's see, one last sort of bundle of questions, which is related to other experiences. So we've seen Delve in the browser. Can you give a quick feeling for timing on iOS, Android, and maybe even Windows 8, Windows 10 native apps?
Yeah, so today we have the web version because we wanted to go against the broadest user base in first release to get feedback to see usage and understand what works and what doesn't work. And we have a good understanding now. We're already working on cross-platform mobile apps. It will be across all the platforms we have, including Android, iOS, and Windows Phone too. The goal there is not to take Delve and squeeze it on a phone, but we actually are looking on scenarios that would be more useful on the go. Now, we looked at data, and yes, users are using more phone, the mobile device more often, but they're using it in shorter sessions because you're always on the go. That means that experience has to be optimized not just for the screen resolution, but also optimized for the attention span you have on a phone. And that requires unique scenarios. Maybe you're using it to check your next meeting and you're looking at your meeting prep card. So we're going to filter it down a little bit and we're going to add some unique scenarios that will help you about discovery, about navigating the content when you're on the go. So it's going to be a little different. We're going to try some new things there. If those work, we'll bring it in the web. So we're going to try to cross-pollinate between mobile and web experiences and see, which ones work, which ones bubble up. But it's going to be quite exciting in 2015.
Well, wonderful. Well, we are starting to run out of time, so let me first of all say, Cem, thank you so very much for spending an hour with us today and sharing your insight into the product. I learned stuff. I know everyone else did. And we look forward to seeing you at the Ask the Experts panel on Friday. To everyone here, I know we had questions we didn't have time to answer. We have 4 great additional events later this week that you can learn about at itunity.com. And they include additional perspective on the business value and role of Delve and Office Graph from Agnes Molnar, developing on Graph and issues of Graph query language and APIs from Victor Villain, how Delve fits into the new way of working with Christian Buckley, and the Ask the Experts panel. So we look forward to seeing you at those events. We'll be pushing an evaluation to you in just a few moments, and then the slides are live Once the recording goes live, which should be within a week here, we will send you a link to that recording as well, and it will remain on itunity.com for the foreseeable future. So thank you guys very much. Cem, is there any final thoughts you'd like to say?
Bring your tough questions for Ask the Experts panel. I'm looking forward to it. Bring him.
Excellent, excellent. And oh, you made me think of one other thing that I wanted to say, but I can't remember what it is now. Oh, I just want to say, Cem, I am so envious of you and your job right now. The technologies you're helping bring to the market, I think, are absolutely a revolution in the way we're going to work. And it brings us, I think it helps make technology less of an obstacle and more of a lubricant and helping us work the way we work naturally as humans based on our relationships with people and content. I think it's absolutely a phenomenal set of technologies. Can't wait to see where it goes and look forward to seeing you up in Redmond, here online at future events with Microsoft and with IT Unity. And of course, everyone, don't forget we've got Ignite coming up in May, where Cem will certainly be sharing brand new stuff with us as well. So thank you all so much. We look forward to seeing you soon, and we will send you to the evaluation right now. There'll be a browser window that opens up. If it doesn't open up on top of the console, you'll see a flashing browser bar in your taskbar, and you can open up the browser. For all of us here at IT Unity, thank you so much, and have a great day.